Hello, I'm Donna Martin, and I'm here with my friend Cheryl Brewster. So great to see you, Cheryl.
Good to see you too.
And can you share with everybody where you are and what you do for a living?
Sure. So I live in West Vancouver, BC, Canada, for those who are global. What I do for a living is I'm a spiritual mentor and reinvention specialist, which means that, hey, it's all about being real and living what's most important.
I love that.
Mhm.
And I
And
just love,
having fun doing it.
yes, and you do that. I just love spending time with you. And I'm just so glad you could join us here today. Um, can you tell me what spirituality is to you?
Yes. Spirituality to me is really feeling your place in the vastness of the universe, being one with that. It's to me, it's always about love and
Mm,
living the deepest values possible, which I think really ties into metaphysics, which is the understanding, the experience of, what reality really is, because we have
mm.
so many perceptions. So it's like it's an adventure. I look at it as an adventure in consciousness.
Right. I really get that being, a Reiki master myself and living my spirituality. And I just really see that you really do live yours, in everything that you do. What did life look for you before well, have you always been spiritual um
Yeah,
or
I
was there a
I
defining moment?
well, I think I've always been spiritual in that I feel like I was born loving God.
Mm,
And so I think in many ways very fortunate. I was born into a family that, didn't really have formal teaching in the family about God or spirituality. That came a bit later when I was, about
mhm,
9 or 10. But born knowing that there's something greater, and just feeling this connection, and knowing things, just this, I would say, deeper relationship with life. Where it really kicked in, I would say, was in my 30s, when I recognized some things in my life that weren't percolating as well as I'd like them to, and that really got me
mm,
started on my journey of exploration. And so I'm very grateful, because spirituality to me brings us back home to
mm.
living our lives from a place that invites unity inside and outside.
I love that. So was there any wake up call or something that shifted to um, really get you shift, like, because you said there's a shift in your 30s. So was there a defining moment or something that happened
Hmm.
that really gave you a wake up call?
Yeah, actually, there are many of them, and kind of continue to be. So back in my 30s, I had was at a mountain retreat. It was in the States somewhere, and I'd been going through a really kind of profound dark night of the soul. Who am I? What's my
Mm,
relationship with God really about? And my facilitator said, go outside and talk to God, because I was having a hard time. So I went outside and I was standing on the mountain, and I'm pleading with God, saying, help me figure this out.
mm,
And I noticed that in the distance there was a little bit of a mist or a cloud coming down the mountain. So I just kind of watched it, and it got closer and closer and closer. And then I was surrounded by it. And I heard this voice inside my head say, this is who you thought I was. Let me show you who I really am.
mm,
It was really cool. And so I had to
amazing.
let go of a lot of preconceived ideas of what, quote unquote,
Mhm.
God was. And then throughout the rest of my life, had many profound experiences. Two in particular, I'll just quickly share.
I'd
Uh,
love to hear it. Yeah.
in holotropic breathing, holotropic breathing is really fast breathing, so that you're literally going into an altered state. And in that altered state, I blew up into light with my birth
Mm,
family. and it was like the joy of Christmas morning. And we were all so excited and we're going, oh, and it was like all these souls coming together saying, it's just about love. That's all it's about. So it was this profound experience and probably one of the most powerful times of feeling total peace, total connection, uh, total bliss and love. And then a few years later, I had an out of body death experience in an ambulance where I didn't physically
Mhm.
flatline, but I had the experience where I went into this, again, altered state where it was like, I'm dead. Like, it was it was like, "This is it? This is what happens when you die?" It was the most
Mhm.
unusual experience, and so this is what I was shown, and this is why I do what I do. It's magnified even more. In that experience, I could feel all the stress that I'd ever felt in my life and all the times I'd, when your kids are small and you're in a hurry and it was like, I really didn't have to do it that way. So, and I could feel how hard I'd made my life unnecessarily. I really didn't have to make it as hard as I did. And then I was shown it was like the history of humanity where there has been conflict after conflict after conflict, and we're no further ahead than we were, hundreds of thousands of years ago. And then I had this experience of profound bliss and peace again, where literally being one in the universe, you see these movies where people die. Well, that's what it was like. And it was like, whoa. And then I heard the words, um, Cheryl, you have a second chance. Go back and talk to people about this. Let them know. And the final words they left me that I was told to share was, whatever you do, if you haven't done it with love, you've missed the point of life. And that really hit me hard. So I have to say is that happened a couple of years ago. And since that time, I've really had to slow down and say, am I living the true meaning and value of life? And we live in a very chaotic world right now, post pandemic. There's a lot going on, a lot of craziness, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear. So I
Mhm.
think this reminder that there is something inside of us that is stronger than the chaos. And we need to put our attention there because when we do, the inner peace that we feel, we will bring that out into the world. We will have an effect in the world. And we each have a responsibility and an opportunity to do that.
Wow, that's so amazing, Cheryl. Every time I speak with you, it's just so much, even more amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that. Um, so what does your life look like now,
Well, what it looks like
spiritually?
now, spiritually, is, as you know, stretching our comfort zones, right?
Hmm.
And that's not always easy or
Hmm.
even pleasant. And a lot of times it's not so pleasant. So I love what I'm doing right now. I'm also studying neuroscience, and
Oh,
I
wow.
I love the how science is catching up with spirituality.
Yeah,
And and now
great.
we have scientific proof that all this stuff all these years um has merit and is being empirically uh proven.
Hmm.
So right now what that means is really having an appreciation for our biology, because the left and right brains of the hemisphere, they got stuff going on. They're not always in harmony with one another. The left side goes, let's get this done and let's get it done now, right?
Yeah,
And then
of
the
course.
other side's going, wait a minute, let's do it in a way that we're actually enjoying rather than stressed out.
Hmm.
So right now it's like, oh, I feel this real opportunity to bring I want to say what would be the word? Comfort. Whether
Mm.
I'm speaking, corporately or whether I'm working one on one with a client, or whether I'm running a pirate program.
I was gonna,
As you know, you attended
I
my
was gonna say, I love
workshop.
your pirate, inner pirate.
Yeah, I use the metaphor of the pirate, and I have this great pirate hat, and it's here somewhere. Here it is. Um, so probably can't see it because of blur, but anyways, the pirate hat really is a
Not bad.
metaphor for courage. It's a metaphor for telling the truth. And it's a metaphor that when we tell the truth to ourselves, even if there's negative emotion going on, that we use that negative emotion to move forward. So where I am
Love
now in
that.
my spirituality is saying, okay, can we have more fun with this?
Mm,
And understanding the neuroscience of the brain and why it does what it does, we can understand why we have these uncomfortable feelings, and to be able to recognize when you're going through that and to make peace with it so that you can move forward with more enjoyment, more ease, more simplicity. Because man, I tell you, the ego complicates things, doesn't it?
it sure does. Yeah, and you're so inspiring, I have to say. I only met you, 6 months ago, but you inspire me every time I talk to you, so thank you. Um, would you say that you have a personal relationship? Well, obviously you have a personal relationship with a higher power. What difference has that relationship made for you in your life?
It's everything. I
Mm,
can't imagine not having this in my life. And what I appreciate about it is how much I've grown, because I think spirituality is about trusting yourself. It's about
hmm.
feeling good about yourself. And
Yes.
it's about compassion. And, even last night, I had this amazing experience where, because I am going through a lot of profound change right now.
Mm,
And I like to think that what I'm really, really good at, and this is
mm,
true for all of us, our pain feeds our purpose.
mm,
So when we feel the pain of change and we're willing to learn from it and we're willing to grow from it, that's the gold.
mm,
And I'm very grateful for that, because as much as I, loved God and really tried to live my life the best way I could, there was a lot of internal fear inside of me.
mhm,
And so to come to terms with that and to recognize that it is a part of growth and we don't have to feel badly.
mm,
And I think in the spiritual circles, we have to be a little bit careful, because uh, to say, oh, I don't have enough faith, I'm not spiritual enough, I'm not praying enough, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. No, 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 no. You're going to go through that stuff. It's how
mhm.
much love will you bring to that as you go through it.
Yes,
So,
amazing. Do you have any specific spiritual practices? Um, and what do they look like?
yeah, prayer for me is a big one. That
Okay.
conversations with God, conversations with my own heart. Uh, I love the word humility,
Mm.
and I love using the Ho'oponopono prayer, the Hawaiian
Oh,
prayer,
yes.
which is about, when something crosses my path, pray a prayer of forgiveness, that
Hmm.
for any way I have unconsciously contributed. And, I think this speaks to the responsibility that we all have to live our joy.
Hmm.
There's a noble, I would say, a moral obligation we have to live our joy. So when things cross
Yes.
our path that aren't so joyful, because we're all connected on some level, because this crossed my path, I'm going to take responsibility, clean out anything within me which affects the whole quantum field.
Hmm.
So prayer is huge. The other thing is dancing.
Oh,
Dancing is
yeah.
great because, and I've studied the neuroscience on this. Dancing
Yeah.
is huge, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so it's like about, I want to say, uh, transferring energy. And
Hmm.
so so this is the important part, I think, is that when we have a negative emotion or a low emotion, that we not judge it. Instead, we use it as opportunity to grow.
Yes. Yeah.
So
And I think if you sing while you're dancing, it's even better.
yes, yes, especially when you have a great voice, which
Yeah.
I don't have a great singing voice, but you know what? It's like no one can
Yeah.
hear me. So there you go.
Exactly. Exactly. Mine's not the greatest either, but just something about singing and dancing just makes me feel so good.
It,
Um, Sorry?
it does, doesn't it? It changes
Yeah,
things.
really does. Yeah. Changes your whole perspective. So, are there certain ways in which your spiritual practice makes you stronger that haven't gotten into yet?
Yeah, I appreciate that. The deeper I listen to my intuition, the more time I spend in quiet and in silence, the clarity that comes with that. One of the latest tools I'm working with, which again, I'm taking these courses on neuroscience of the
Hmm.
brain. One of the things that is fairly new, I've always kind of journaled, but the more this is the neuroscience, it's super cool. The more that if we're learning something new, and especially when we're going through stretching our comfort zones, if we're learning something new, to take the time to reflect on it and write about it, and
Mm.
to ask questions that kind of inspire us, uh, will speed us along much faster than just continually trying to practice. So the
Hmm.
reflection piece is huge. That's a new one, and I'm really gaining a lot of value from that.
Amazing.
It
Yeah.
is.
And
It's very
I just,
interesting.
I'm learning stuff just listening to this conversation, um, and, uh, that you were talking about that whole Ho'oponopono
Hmm.
prayer, and I just learned about that actually a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
and I love
good.
it.
Isn't it great? Now, what about it? What
Yeah.
is it that you love about it, Donna?
Just the forgiveness and the thank you and the love and the gratitude. Um, yeah, it was just like it just felt like such a great place to be and to share it with other people. It's just amazing. So, so what are some difficulties or struggles with having a spiritual life?
Oh boy, lots.
Ah, maybe that's
And
okay.
you know what I'm talking about, right?
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So, anyone listening to this, there's two things that are required to be a really great spiritual person.
Mhm.
One is grit,
Yeah.
and the other is grace.
Right. Yes. Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfectly said.
yeah, yeah. Because you know what? And here's the other thing about neuroscience that I just love to learn is that, the difference between learner's mindset and closed mindset.
Hmm.
And uh, it's like I need to tell a secret is that uh, comfort zones are
Hmm.
actually closed mindsets.
Mm.
Is the
Yes.
unwilling, and I love one of my favorite books is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and
Okay.
he talks about our upper limit problem, and that
Mm.
as soon as we kind of outgrow a level, then we start making it hard again. And what
Mm.
I'm intrigued with is,
Yeah.
do we really have to keep making it hard,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I really think that sometimes, I mean, that's just how we look at it, right? We could look at it as easier. We could look at it as hard. It's our choice. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I just want to bury my head under the blanket and,
Mhm.
block out the world. I think we all have those moments, but I think it's how you handle those moments that
Exactly.
makes you who you are. So, what are you committed to in your spirituality, and what part did devotion play into this?
I think devotion is the desire to be in alignment. It's It's that devotion of, again, I would say humility, like really, really telling the truth to ourselves when something comes up, and just getting back on track again. We need to stay plugged in, and
Yeah,
right.
exactly. Definitely is a great metaphor. I'm a big believer everything happens for a reason, so maybe it was just so that we could create this metaphor.
Well, that ties into synchronicity, right?
Mhm,
It and that's the beauty, I think, of spirituality. It adds this greater dimension. One thing I
mhm,
forgot to mention earlier that I also do as an ordained minister, I'm very privileged to not only officiate weddings, but to also bring, I want to say, just this beauty to celebrations of life.
mm,
And there's a Latin phrase called memento mori, which means embrace your death. And I love
mhm,
that phrase because I had a recent experience where I went in for surgery this last year. And as I was preparing, it was like, Cheryl, like you're expecting to come back and everything's going to be fine, but potentially this could be your last day living here.
mhm,
And I appreciated that experience because I think it's just so easy to take life for granted. It's
mhm,
so easy to get caught up in, the things that really don't matter. So spirituality to me right now is the devotion to really being present. And just last night I was having this experience and it was like, wow, it's like when something like the dishes become this profound, oneness.
mhm.
So that's my devotion, that's my prayer, that's my desire. And I love what David Hawkins said in Power versus Force. He's the fellow who created the scale of consciousness, which I think
Mm,
is amazing. And he said, when uh when you recognize you want to do what uh you want to grow, and yet you feel incapable of growth at the time. He said, use that as a prayer of surrender. I will use this as a prayer of surrender to the divinity within me. And I love that. I find that
mhm.
so powerful when things get sticky, when they get hard.
Yeah, amazing. I see you have so many tools in your toolbox when it comes to your spirituality. That's so great. Um, were there times you wanted to quit, and what got you back on the horse?
It's funny you should ask that question because I was going through some old journals the other day
Mhm,
and I thought, wow, it was a piece I'd written actually for a workshop I taught. And
mhm,
it's it it's really good stuff. I thought, wait a minute. I wrote that. I thought I was reading somebody else. I thought, oh. um, so I was describing what I called a not only a dark night of the soul, but a double blind spot.
Oh, oh.
Not a single one, a double one.
Yeah, that sounds like pretty intense.
Yeah, it was very, very intense. And my son had gone through a really major illness and it was really
Mm,
tough. And then the same time, I had realized that, my relationship and my marriage was done and I needed to make some important decisions. And they were tough decisions at the time, really tough.
mhm,
So I'd gone through a period of burnout from everything that had happened. And I was, away at a beautiful location. A friend of mine had a cabin that she just generously said, "Look, you just stay
mm,
here and just take this time for you," which I did.
mm,
Anyways, when I was there, you're sad, you're hurt, you feel broken inside. And I
mm,
remember thinking, okay, a few days and I'll be feeling better. Well, a few days turned into a few weeks, and a few weeks turned into a few months, and I still wasn't feeling better.
mhm,
And I'd never, ever had that happen before. The one thing that would always bring me back would be, when you went through a hard time, was what inspires you. And I could not find my inspiration.
mm,
And I didn't know what to do. I'd never had that happen. So you know what did happen? One morning at like
What?
5 in the morning, I woke up and I, again, pleading, talking to God, saying, what? And I, I heard the words, dance, just go dance.
Wow.
At 5 in the morning, thank God it's an isolated cabin, no one around. I
Yeah.
cranked up the music. Well, and that was what shifted it. I danced myself back.
Amazing.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was,
And I could really feel in my heart, when you were talking about that and how hard it was for you and and then the lightness getting through it with the dance, just amazing.
yeah.
Um, where did you seek out training? Did you have a mentor or trainer or was this just life?
I think it was pretty much life. I was fortunate where certain people came into my life at certain
Mhm,
times. Uh, I I think my biggest mentor, really was or is my higher self. It's that
mhm,
voice that I hear that says slow down. And that's why I love to teach what I teach, because as much as I love spirituality and I
mhm.
love what happens,
Yeah,
man, can I want to go, hey, let's go here, let's go there. And it's like, no, 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 let's just come back.
yeah.
So
Mhm,
that discipline of I would say the deep discipline of listening. And the word patience packs a punch, because when you're patient, that to me is the essence of God.
mm, yes.
Because there's no rush, there's no shortage.
Mm,
So what I'm, teaching right now in the pirate programs that I facilitate is time is inside of us. Abundance is inside of us. It's that pirate's treasure. It's inside. It's not out there somewhere. It's in here. So that's why I think this grand adventure that we're all on, to really pay attention to synchronicity,
mm,
to slow down enough to follow the thread.
amazing. I have to share with you that, just being in your presence, I feel so grounded and my energy, your energy, even through Zoom, is so amazing. I just wanted to share that, with everybody who's watching. What would you like to be acknowledged for from being on your spiritual journey?
Well, there's two things that come to mind immediately. The first is the joy of the spiritual journey. And the second one is courage, because I think that in following our joy, we're really we're really embracing what Hildegard or de Bingham described as the joy of how did she describe it? The divinity of our humanity.
Right.
And like
Yes.
Marianne Williamson said, I think really our greatest duty in life is to really own the brilliance that's inside of us. I think that's what heals the world.
Mm, I love that. And I acknowledge you, Cheryl, for having the courage to be divine and be that divinity out in the world and to bring joy. And I acknowledge you for all the love you share with everybody. Your presence is just so amazing. I mean, I've been with you on Zoom, I've been with you in person. Even in person, you're even bigger and brighter. And you just hold a space for people to be who they are. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Donna. Thank you for the opportunity to, if I could leave one last um, word of inspiration, it would be
Mm,
to live your your uniqueness, to live
mm,
what is rare and different and unusual. And the reason I say that is, a man by Andre Gide had that's one of his quotes that I'm not remembering exactly, but he said, "What's rare and different about yourself And yet that's the very thing we try to hide.
Hmm.
So if I had a purpose in life, it would be to not hide that, to live that, to declare it and invite others to do the same, because we're all waking up out of the dream of perception. And thank you for who you are and for what you're
Oh,
doing. And
thank you. Yeah, and I really want to thank you for living your truth and bringing it out into the world so everybody can revel in it. And thank you so much for spending this time with me, and sharing who you are with everybody.
well,
And
thank
yeah,
you.
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
I think we're starting a pleasure movement.
I think
And
that's a
that's the
great
latest thing
idea.
that I've loved about the neuroscience
Yeah.
is that pleasure is so healing. And it's like, well, of course, it's so natural being us. So why do we try
Hmm.
so hard not to be us, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Exactly.
here's to the fun of being
Yeah.
who we are.
Exactly. And thank you. I also want to thank you for not letting yourself be stopped no matter your circumstances. Um,
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
takes courage. It really does to live your spiritual truth.
Yes, yes, it does. And again, I think that's the voice of inspiration for all of us. Don't
Hmm.
give up.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. And I think that's a perfect way to end the interview. Don't give up.
Keep going.
Keep
Arr.
going. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thanks, Donna.